So it's starting to laughing. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Nightmare Road. People that tune in this, they're gonna be like, "Is this a comedy show about funny stuff like sitcoms like Seinfeld?" No, it's not. We're laughing because we're sick people. This is a horrific show. So a quick disclaimer: um, if you don't like gore, murder, and all that, why don't you go watch CNN and then listen to them cover up murder and all that fun stuff. So, anyway, sorry guys, I am your host T-Con, and I'm here with the very, very mysterious.
SOS.
What do you got for us today, SOS?
Hey, first off, Decon, can you change your mic a little bit? I'm getting a little bit of feedback, just a hair.
Really? How's
I
that?
don't want to stop the recording, but just hang with us here for a minute, folks. He's going to change his mic a little bit. As soon as you started talking, I was getting feedback.
How about now? Is that better?
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 Better. Okay.
Better. This is reality,
yeah,
guys.
I can only see, it's reality TV, folks. We could only, there you go. All right.
We'll do it live. Right.
We got another good case today. This one is called the giggling nanny.
Ooh.
Have you heard about her?
Maybe. Let's see. Sounds really familiar. But okay,
Yeah.
just lay it on me.
All right, she's a nutcase, man. So Nannie was born November 5th, 1905 in Blue Mountain, Alabama. She was one of 5 children. She had a brother and 3 sisters. And just like almost every story that we have with very abusive people, she was raised by a father who was abusive, right? So it's kind of like that generational trauma, right?
Yeah.
So you raised in abuse, you become abusive. So he was controlling and abusive.
What is that saying? I think I said it in one of our past episodes. Hurt people, hurt people.
Hurt people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really traumatic, and I wish that people would learn how to break those cycles. And not everybody follows in that footstep, that path. But
yeah.
Yeah. So there was an incident that happened when she was 9, and she blames a lot of her adult behavior on this incident. And I think, honestly, she's full of shit. But anyway, at age 9, when the family was taking a train to visit some relatives in northern or southern Alabama, the train suddenly stopped and rocked. And so, being back in the day, right, there's no seatbelts or anything on a lot of that public transportation. It flung her forward and she hit her head on a metal bar. And so for years after that, she suffered headaches and blackouts, and then later depression. And she blamed that trauma for causing mental instability. We do know that head trauma can cause a change in personality.
Yes. I know people that were a certain way. Well, I met them, and then they were kind of wild. And then you're not getting feedback, are you?
No.
Okay. Thought I was hearing voices. Anyways, some whispering. So there's people that were kind of wild, and then you ask them like, "Damn, you ever always like this?" And they're like, "Well, no. When I was a teenager, I got a head injury because I got into a car accident." And I mean, like the comedian Roseanne, like you've heard her story. She was a very timid Roseanne Barr. She was a very timid girl, and she was very polite. Then she got hit by a car, and she was like in a coma for 2 weeks. Forgot how to do math. Like for a while, she was really messed up. And then when she was fully functional, now she was loud and she was wild and she was no longer, and it was just a brain injury. I mean, same thing with Sam Kinison. That you remember Sam Kinison,
God, I love Sam Kinison, man.
Yeah, we're gonna do it all night long. That guy. His brother has a book. I think it's called Brother Sam, and on there he talked about the same thing. How he was a quiet boy and everything. Then he got hit by a car, and then has sustained a head injury, and he came out, oh, 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 and that's all it took was just that injury.
So I guess it's plausible then, that her after injury self became like a sociopath or anyway, maybe I don't know. Anyway, I did look up the link between head injuries and criminality because I was pretty interested in statistics on this, and there was a recent study conducted by the University of Glasgow, and it was published in the Journal of Violent and Aggressive Behavior, which I didn't know existed, but now I need to find it. It looked into the neurodevelopment and psychosocial risk factors in serial killers and mass murderers. That's a pleasant topic, isn't it? It was the first ever analysis of all available literature, like books, journals, legal files, news reports, electronic documents. They brought it all together, which kind of is a fascinating study of serial killers and mass murderers. And they said that our findings tentatively indicate that these extreme forms of violence may be the result of highly complex interaction of biological, psychological, sociological factors. Potentially a significant proportion of mass or serial killers may have had neurodevelopment disorders such as ASD, which is the autism spectrum disorder, or a head injury.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah.
That is nuts.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Out of 239 eligible killers used in the study, 28% were found to have had definite, high probability, or possible ASD, the autism spectrum disorder, as compared to 1 in 100 people in the UK that were not, killers, I guess, that they looked at. 21% suffered a definite or suspected head injury, while 55% of those with ASD and a head injury had experienced psychosocial stressors such as significant trauma events during childhood, like violent or sexual encounters of a close family member, right? So you wrap all that together and it's like, poof, killer. That's very scary.
Huh. Sorry, now I'm just pondering. You got me into a pondering mood. That is nuts.
Yeah. So I always kind of want to blow off the fact that people, well, yeah, I mean, come on, they should know right from wrong. Maybe they really don't. Maybe they're incapable because they had a head injury. Maybe she was on the spectrum and then had the head injury. And so it just
Yeah. And you do see that with certain human beings. Like there was a case where they were interviewing this guy that well, they're interrogating, not interviewing. They were interrogating this guy who asked for a ride from one of his college buddies, and he's like, "Hey, can you give me a lift here?" And then the guy goes, "Sure." So then he gives him a ride, and they're going through this wooded area, and he pulls a gun on him and shoots him multiple times. And when they asked him why he did it, he's like, "Oh, I don't know," and he's like confessing to everything. They're kind of like, what went through your mind when you did this? And he was like, well, I just wanted to kill him, and the guy just seemed very, it's like there's something not clicking, like there's a wire there that's just not not hooked up correctly. That kind of sounds bad to say, right, but who cares? So yeah, just the inability to process, like even his inability for self-preservation. Like he was confessing to the murder. He's like, yeah, I did it. Who cares? And it was just like, no.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways.
There's like a lack of empathy there for another human being or a living being of any kind, right? So the suggestion is that if this combination of characteristics is discovered within an individual, the person could be predisposed to developing into a serial killer. It doesn't mean they're going to, but they're certainly predisposed to go that way. And they're wondering if having this kind of knowledge would stop mass killings. Like if if there's, I mean, I don't know how you would do this, but anyway, those red flags are usually there for somebody who's going to commit a mass killing. They're usually flags, but nobody's looking, nobody cares, or if they care and they call the police are like, yeah, well, they haven't done anything yet, so we can't do
really
anything. Our
do
hands are tied.
anything, which
Right. So anyway, and then there's some interesting examples of their study, like Fred West. I think these are all in the UK. No, they're not. Fred West suffered a fractured skull after a motorcycle accident at 17 that left him unconscious for several days. 2 years later, he groped a girl on a fire escape. She subsequently punched him, causing him to fall 2 floors and suffer further injuries to his head. Kind of like good for her, but anyway. Along with his wife, Rosemary West, would go on to commit at least 12 murders between the 60s and 80s.
Ugh.
There's a guy in Norway, Anders Breivik, 2011. He's killed 77 people by shooting and an explosion. And they said that he suffered from Asperger's syndrome, which is a form of ASD. Richard Ramirez, we've all heard of Richard Ramirez. If you follow murder at all, everybody knows Richard Ramirez.
Richard Ramirez.
At the age of, he was the rapist down in LA. The Night Stalker, yeah. At the age of 2, a dresser fell on him and nearly killed him. And he was knocked unconscious, suffered a severe gash on his head. At 5 years old, he was once again knocked unconscious by a swing in the park being used by his sister, and he received another laceration on his head. And he also suffered physical abuse at the hands of his father, had been exposed to sexual sadism by his older cousin who served in Vietnam.
Yep. Showing them the pictures. Showing them pictures of the way that they would punish who they called female Viet Cong, but they were just girls that were part of a village.
Right.
They called they would take pictures of them, and they were showing us trophies. And
he also witnessed that very same cousin shooting his wife in the face.
Yeah.
So he had multiple trauma, right? So his switch got flipped. Right? So he's the Night Stalker, killed 13 people. Then Jeffrey Dahmer, which I didn't know I know Jeffrey Dahmer's history, but he murdered 17 people, but he experienced a dysfunctional family. He also underwent traumatic surgery at the age of 3. He was not clinically assessed or diagnosed with ASD, but there's overwhelming evidence, both peer-reviewed and in a plethora of books about the serial killer, to suggest that he displayed numerous indications of Asperger's syndrome. So they go on to stress that, look, even though people may have head injuries, I've had a few, ASD, Asperger's syndrome doesn't mean you're going to turn into a serial killer, but they're just saying there are these commonalities.
Yeah, there's links there.
Yeah. So, anyway, let's get back to Nannie. So she's had this head injury, right?
We kind of got off topic here.
Well, it's always interesting to dive into why this happens, because we know what happens, but it's kind of like, why? I want to know. I want to pick it apart and go, why? And so she was a romantic. She dreamed of a romantic life. She pored over romantic magazines in the Lonely Hearts column, but her father forbid Nannie and her sisters from wearing makeup or attractive clothing. They were had to be very bland. They couldn't go to any dances or social events of the day. And we've seen cases before where there's that link between that overly strict household and some of those children, not all, having a propensity for criminality later.
Yeah.
Right? So we know that she had the head injury, but she also had some of those other stressors. So she had that overbearing father. She had childhood trauma. She had abuse. And I think that raised the factor of probability for her to become this crazy woman that she became. So, and I say crazy, she's crazy. So listen to this. So when she was 16, she married Charlie Braggs, and she worked in a linen factory, and he was a coworker there. And her father gave the blessing, probably just get her out of the house. 16, they had married after 4 months of dating. And Bragg was the only son of a single mother who insisted on living with them. So she wrote of the marriage, I married as my father wished in 1921 to a boy I had known only for 4 or 5 months who had no family. Oh, and then and whose mother was unwed and had taken over my life completely when we were married. She had never seen anything wrong with what she'd done, but she would take spells. Not only she would so she insisted, her mother-in-law insisted on living with them, but then she wouldn't let Nanny's mother come visit. Like she was really overbearing. So
that is nuts.
that would last approximately less than 24 hours with me. But anyway.
3 minutes, get out.
The marriage, I'd be like, there's a door, lady, see ya. But women, women didn't act like that back then. They certainly don't act like I act now. They don't, they're a little bit more, what's the word?
Trained.
They weren't. Yeah. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Anyway, but they did have 4 kids. So somehow she stuck it out until 1927. But stressed out by her needy mother-in-law and 4 kids, she started drinking and smoking, another behavior that wasn't very ladylike back then. And both her and her husband correctly suspected each other of cheating. So they were both having affairs at this point. She's drinking and out carousing. He's doing the same thing.
He's doing it, yeah.
Come on.
Doing the same shit.
They've got a built-in babysitter, so you might as well go out, right?
Yeah.
Come on.
Might as well go out and defile your marriage.
So, unfortunately, in 1927, the couple lost their 2 middle girls to suspected food poisoning.
Huh.
Okay. Yeah. All right. This is where it kind of starts. So, soon after that, Bragg's firstborn daughter. So this is her husband's firstborn daughter, I guess. Wait. Bragg's firstborn daughter, Melvina, fled, leaving newborn Florine behind. So Melvina was apparently old enough to bail out, and then the baby's left behind. Bragg's mother died not that much later. Interesting, huh?
Huh.
So,
okay.
We got 2 middle kids dead, and you've got mother-in-law now is dead.
Now dead.
Yeah.
Oh, those accidents.
So after that, Braggs went to Florida, so her husband went to Florida and brought Melvina back in the summer of 1928, accompanied by a divorcee with her own child. So this is all very confusing. Anyway, the girl that was old enough to go to Florida apparently has now had a child. Okay, and she's in a relationship with the divorcee, is how I take it to read. And so all these people come back, but then that's enough. Nanny's like, she's divorcing, and she takes the 2 girls, I guess Melvina and Florine, back to her mother's house. Braggs always maintained he left the house because he was frightened of Nanny. I mean, his mother's dead, 2 kids are dead. He's suspecting her, right?
Yeah.
But it's 1928. We don't have forensics, So now it's 1929. She married Robert Franklin Harrelson. They moved to Jacksonville, Florida with Melvina and Florine. After a few months, she discovered that he was an alcoholic and had a criminal record for assault. But despite this, big secret there, they stayed married for 16 years, but it was a terrible marriage.
Yeah, jeez.
Until the day in 1945 when Nanny claimed that her husband raped her. So the next day, she put rat poison in his corn whiskey jar, and he died that night.
Ooh,
So,
man.
so this is death number 4 around her. Okay. Now, Melvina, her oldest daughter, gave birth to Robert Lee Haynes in 1943. So she has this baby boy. Another baby boy followed 2 years later, but soon died afterward. Now they're living with Nanny.
They're living with Nanny.
Okay, so upon the birth of her second baby, Melvina came into the room, and she thought she saw her mother sticking a hat pin in the baby's head. When she asked her husband and sister, I guess, yeah, she'd gotten married, for clarification, they said that Nanny had told them the baby was dead, and they noticed she was holding a pin. And hat pins are really long.
Yeah, they're
right?
long. Yeah.
Yeah, because you do your hair up, you put your hat on, and then you stick the pin through it, right? And they noticed that the doctors couldn't give any kind of positive explanation for death because they don't have all the techniques we have now.
They don't have the forensics.
So that's death. Right.
Well, if so you notice, man, that is crazy. I mean, if you think you witness somebody sticking a hat pin in one of your children's head, you like, honey, I think I'm like, why is that your reaction? Like, why is your reaction like,
right.
I think I just saw her putting, like, instead of lashing out at her like an animal, and then putting a damn hat pin through her eyes.
You'd think they'd have the police there really, really quick, right?
Oh, yeah, or the police arrive to clean up a body.
So this is death number 4 or 5? What are we at? 5. So we're at death number 5. So Melvina's marriage is now over. Husband flew the coop. He's like, this is too nuts for me. And she began dating a soldier that Nanny disapproved of. She didn't like this relationship. I guess the soldier probably didn't like Nanny very much. Could see there was something wrong here.
Yeah, like this lady's messed up. And what year? This is 1940s, right?
Yeah, so this is 1944 because Melvina's now dating the soldier. And after, so, Nanny disapproved of the relationship, and while Melvina was visiting her father, so I guess the father lives, I don't know where he lives, because remember, Nanny and the father are divorced. They've been divorced brags for a long time. Yeah. So even though the baby mysteriously died with the hat pin, Melvina leaves her son in the care of Nanny while she goes to visit her father. And the son, now, while Melvina is gone to visit her father, the son mysteriously dies of asphyxiation. So this is number 6. And they said it was unknown causes, kind of like, well, the child wasn't an infant, so it's not SIDS, right? But it's unknown causes, and Nanny had put a $500 life insurance policy on the baby before he died.
Man, what is...
Yes. So she collects the money.
I'm more upset with the people that left these people in the care of this lady than the actual lady killing people.
Right? Okay. Now we're going to husband number 3. This is Arlie Lanning. She met him through the Lonely Hearts column while traveling to Lexington, North Carolina, and married him 3 days later. This time, Nanny was the one who stepped out first. She was a player. She would disappear for months on end, go out and party, shack up with people. I mean, she was nuts.
Hand out rat poison like it was ecstasy at a party.
Exactly. But when she was home, she played the doting housewife. And then all of a sudden, he died to what was said to be heart failure. But everybody suspected, like all the townspeople came to the funeral of this man, suspected Nanny killed him. But nobody did anything. So this is number 7. And then Arlie left the house to his sister because it was probably already set up the will before he married Nanny, right?
Yeah.
And so she was so mad that apparently Nanny was really, really mad. So the house mysteriously burned down, and Nanny grabbed the insurance money and moved to her sister's home. So somehow the insurance money didn't go to who owned the house, it was diverted to Nanny. So then she moves to her sister's house in North Carolina, and her sister's named Dovey. And Dovey was bedridden at the time, and she had a caretaker. But Nanny's like, no, let me take care of her. And then right after she got there, Dovey died. So this is number 8.
Oh
It's like,
man, this is crazy.
this would be a comedy if it wasn't so tragic.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, geez, like this, and at the end of the story, it'd be like, well, remember that Nanny went and found the PETA.
So now she's back on the dating scene. She can't be alone, right? So she joins this dating service called the Diamond Circle Club, and she meets Robert L. Morton of Jamestown, North Carolina. They married in 1952 in Emporia, Kansas. And he was not a drinker, but he was a womanizer. And then before she... So they go home to see her mother, Louisa, in 1953. And
So sick.
Louisa dies
Oh,
poisoning. So that's
this is so
9.
sick.
I know. And then a few months later, on May 19,
Why are we laughing?
husband dies. So we're at number 10. It's like, holy
What is wrong
crap,
with
I
us?
can't even believe this. All right. So that was husband number 4. So we're up to 10 people mysteriously died around Nanny, right? She meets a Nazarene minister who lost his entire family to a tornado in Carroll County, Arkansas. So how much pain can you go through in your life? You lose your whole family, and then you meet Nanny. Okay? They married in June of 1953. Samuel disapproved, he's a minister, he disapproved of all the romance novels and the stories that his wife adored. So Nanny starts going to work, and in September, Samuel was admitted to the hospital with flu-like symptoms. The hospital diagnosed him with severe digestive tract infection. He was treated and released on October 5th. So he was in there for a while because he went in September. I don't know when in September, but he comes out on October 5th, and then he dies on October 12th, 1954. And
tornado-like symptoms.
Yeah. She was attempting to collect the 2 life insurance policies that she took out on him when she was arrested. They finally caught up to her. So this would have been death. This is death, what, 11? I think we're up to
11.
11. So the sudden death, because he was on the upswing, so she was probably poisoning him very slowly and they didn't catch it. And so he's in the hospital where she can't poison him anymore. So he starts improving.
He starts recovering.
They send him home. Yeah. And then he dies. And they went, wait, no, he was in really good shape when we sent him home. So that's when they suspected that there was something wrong. Finally, a doctor orders an autopsy, and they found huge amounts of arsenic in his system. Okay. So she's arrested. And her name is the Giggling Nanny because in every picture that you find of her, she's giggling. In her interrogation, she giggled. She loved the press that she was getting, like the reporters flocking around when she'd be going here and there. And she's always smiling and giggling and laughing and having a great time. She adored the fame that she was getting from all of this. And at first, she refused to acknowledge her role in Sam Doss's poisoning, say she would never harm her husband. The police began to remind her that arsenic was then found in Sam's, this is her last husband. Hey, look, how did the arsenic get in his system? If you didn't kill him, how did he get arsenic in his system, right? And they also pointed out the fact that when Sam was admitted to the hospital a month earlier, he had just devoured a plate full of her prunes, apparently liked prunes, and he ate a bunch of them. Probably not a good idea to eat a lot of prunes.
Don't eat prunes from the Giggling Nanny.
No. So, and then he said, did you poison, they were like, did you poison the prunes, Nanny? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Me poison? They questioned her for hours. She just kept looking through a romance magazine like the whole time they're interrogating her. I don't know, take the magazine away? Was that not
Yeah,
an option?
beat her with the magazine.
You know? It's not like Tiger Beat magazine and you're looking through it and you're just, anyway. They finally said, put the magazine down and listen to us. And so here's the questioning. I have some of the questioning that I found online. So, Nanny, we've been here for hours. Are you getting tired? You killed him. We know you killed him. You know you killed him. Oh, boys, come on now. I killed nobody. I don't know why you think I did. Special Agent Ray Page said, we made phone calls, Nanny. We've learned about that Mr. Doss was your fourth husband to die of the same symptoms. We're putting two and two together, Nanny. It looks like we might just come up with, well, 4 arsenic, Nanny. We believe they all died of arsenic. It'll be easier if you admit what you did, what you've done ahead of time. I mean, before we have to find out ourselves. She says, are you saying, young man, that I killed all my husbands? And then she'd giggle. And you're a nice looking young man, but so foolish. And then she'd flip through her magazine some more. It's like bizarre land. Anyway, they keep going and they interrogating her and they said, no more reading, Nanny. This isn't the Christian Science reading room. They actually said this.
You know what? I like to think that they were speaking like this, eh? Come on, giggling Nanny, the jig is up.
Oh, no. Well, so there's a picture of her that I'll put on the Facebook page. There's a picture of her sitting there, and there's 4 guys in suits all around her. And I think that's probably the interrogation, not her attorneys, looking very stern. And she's kind of like bored,
Like as if she's going to
Oh,
like
Lord.
on vacation or something, just smiling.
You're going to answer us, Nanny. There are others too, aren't they? A lot of people around you dropped dead over the last couple of decades. Are there ghosts coming back to haunt you? They're here, Nanny, in this room. Put him to rest, Nanny. Put him to rest.
Put him to rest, Nanny. Come on. Book her, Dano. And the guy's like, this lady here, she's a pocket full of firecrackers. That's what she is. Over here walking like she's the cat's pajamas. Well, let me tell you something there, Nanny. We got the photographs.
Oh, and then she apparently sighed and said, all right, all right. And then she giggled again and said she confessed to poisoning Doss, but not out of maliciousness. He wouldn't let me watch my favorite programs on television. He made me sleep without a fan on the hottest nights. He was a miser. And, well, what's a woman to do in these conditions?
President Truman's coming through, and he's going to give you a what you know what.
She goes, okay, there, you have it. Can I have my magazine back now?
Wow.
So they said, first tell us about your other husbands. And she said, if I do, will you give me back my Romantic's Heart magazines? Oh my God, this woman. Wow. So they said, I know. And then so they gave her back the magazine. Then she shrugged her shoulders and in a sweet and innocent smile, she winked at them and said, it's a deal. So she told him about Richard Morton, Arlie Lanning, and Frank Harrelson, all men that she had loved at first and admired. And then they turned out to be duds. So they had to go.
What a circus.
She said,
jeez, that is insane.
All she wanted was a romance.
All she wanted was a romance.
Loved her.
And I want is Ricky Ricardo to be my lawyer. Mira, esta mujer aquí me está volviendo loco. Mira que no confess, Nanny.
So she goes, if their ghosts are in this room, they're either drunk or sleeping.
What a good response.
Like, she's awesome. Not, but Anyway, they handed her back the magazine. During her interrogation, she confessed and oddly giggled the whole time, and that's why they nicknamed her the Giggling Nanny. Once arrested, word got out to the general public, and then people started coming forward to tell the police about the other trail of bodies, right? The babies, her children, her mother-in-law, her sister, her mom, right? All these people. So Doss did confess to killing 4 of her husbands, her mother, her sister, her grandson, and her mother-in-law. She didn't confess to the other child, her kids, and her mother. She was sentenced on May 17th, 1955 to life imprisonment. The state did not pursue the death penalty due to her sex. Back in the day, this is the 50s, so they didn't want to put a woman to death. She enjoyed her fame. She giggled and smiled during the trial. They couldn't keep her be serious. She even made jokes about recipes that she used to cook with the poison during the court trial.
During a court trial.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
She was talking about recipes and how to put the poison in it. Because I can't imagine that arsenic probably has a taste to it, so you'd have to sweeten it up.
You have to sweeten it up. Now, a lot of people put it in whiskey.
No.
Yep.
Yeah. So she was never prosecuted for the other murders, but many believe that she was responsible for at least 17 or 11 deaths total, which is, I think, what we counted. She died from leukemia in the hospital ward of the Oklahoma State Penitentiary in 1965, and she's buried at the Oak Hill Memorial Park. And that, folks, is the giggling nanny.
We did a lot of giggling during this episode. I think there's something wrong with us. Jeez. It's not funny at us.
She was like Looney Tunes. This woman was Looney Tunes.
This is a crazy... And I'm over here laughing, just thinking, like, how ridiculous is this? And then, man. But again, like, I'm still very upset with those people that left these children in her care. Like, I saw her put a hat pin in the baby's head. Do you think that's something wrong with that? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, I hope she'd come after you with the same.
And then you leave your son.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, your other son. No. Yeah, just the whole. Yeah, and she sounded like she was a really smooth talker. So maybe people actually believed her. Maybe her daughter actually believed her that she wasn't this evil woman. And you would think the trail of bodies alone. I mean, come on. Every time she goes somewhere, somebody dies. Her sister, her mother. I mean, that's, yeah.
Well, she was also a man eater. Like,
yeah. So that she's been dubbed the Black Widow. Obviously, there's been a lot of books. If you guys want to read more about her, there's a ton of books out there on this woman and her on her life. It's a fascinating study of perhaps that link of head injury and trauma, childhood trauma, to spiraling off into a murder. So,
well, there you go, folks. Glad you guys stuck around to this disaster. You know what? We giggled so much that if we were in a Greek novel, it would be like a character flaw. We laugh at we would laugh at the most ridiculous, inappropriate times. Man, so sick. But anyways, guys, this was a disgusting, man. Such a disgusting case. I mean,
yeah.
And you know what's funny? I like to imagine that while she's giving her recipes to like how to poison somebody, how many women in unhappy marriages were writing stuff down?
Oh God! Right? What a thought. Women typically murder by poison.
Yep.
Right.
So
I mean, that's the common. We just had somebody here in town convicted, but she only is doing what I don't understand. I guess she was poisoning her husband and her kids, and she's convicted to only 6 months. They didn't die, but still.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, it's attempted murder, is that not? So.
Yeah, we just had this conversation last episode about Idaho and its laws. Man, but that is just crazy. Yeah, like what you said about women utilize poison in their murders, and men utilize more blunt force and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And also, the men are more likely to murder the women in their lives, while the women, they tend to murder the children. So it's just
it's just a crazy world we live in. Anyway, folks, trust the people that you're eating. their food. Be careful out there.
Yeah. Don't
God
trust
dang it.
the food. That's why you got to eat a little bit of it so you develop a tolerance. You know.
All right.
Anyways, guys, this was a great episode, and guys, like and subscribe. Spread the word if you like this kind of stuff. Bunch of sick animals. You know what? Actually, stop listening. Don't listen anymore. This show's bad for your mental health. I'm gonna sign off. Yeah, I'm your host Decon with the very mysterious SOS, and remember to always look both ways, especially if you find yourself on Nightmare Road.
Bye.